Hello, friends. My name is Kevin Thompson, here with Redeeming Blood Ministries. Today, I'd like to talk to you about a program called Audacity. Now, as you can see here on the screen, we're at www.audacityteam.org/downloads/. So if you navigate to this web URL, you'll automatically be took to the download page. And as you can see before you, you can use Audacity for Windows, for Mac, and for Linux. Now, I will say Linux is a little bit more different than the standard Mac or the standard Windows installation process. You have to, I believe, I may not be correct, but I believe you got to use a program known as, I think it's termed Wine Installer on the Linux platform. Now, I may be not correct on that. I'm not sure. I've never actually personally used it on Linux, but I use the one for Mac, and so you can get it for Windows 10 or Sierra. In my case, I'm using it on High Sierra. So whatever operating system applies to you, you go ahead and click that, and it will take you to, y'all have to forgive me, my internet seems to be acting up a little bit. Let me make sure. Okay, it's tried to connect to the wrong network. Let me put it back on my network, which is Redeeming Blood Ministries. Don't know how it got done that way, but anyway, always something when you're trying to make a tutorial, so forgive me there. But as you can see here, you have Audacity 2.1.3 DMG file. So for Mac users, this is what you're going to look for. You can use this one, and it is a universal binary for the Intel and for the other type of board. In our case, this works fine with the Intel with the 64-bit processor. This would be more for a 32-bit processor, and this is the same file as this, but this is a zip archive without the help files, and this is the installation file right here that basically goes right into your, as I can show you, your launcher. And so you can see right here, if you download the DMG file, you can actually drag the icon straight into your application folder, and it will automatically put it in your applications. This file right here, you would have to unpack it, and then you would have to proceed manually. So that's really up to you, however you're comfortable doing that. Okay, as you can see right here, you have installation instructions here, and right here you have plugins. Now what plugins is here for Audacity is, let's go ahead and scroll down to where it says optional downloads. Now this applies to Windows and Mac. Of course, there's a different set of plugins for Mac compared to Windows, so you need to go to the optional downloads to the applicable OS, which is your operating system. But this is a file that I strongly recommend you to get. These help you with extra effects, such as a different type of compression. The Dyson compressor is a little bit more advanced for advanced users. Now, if you're planning to use this to encode MP3s, you'll have to get this Lang MP3 encoder. Without installing this into the Audacity program, Windows or Mac or Linux, you'll not be able to export your files as MP3. And then for more advanced users, if you're wanting to edit, say like the sound that you would like to insert or do a voiceover on a video, you might want to go ahead and get this FF Meg import-export library. Why? Because you can use this M4A audio to go with the MP4 file format. So that was just a little bit how to get Audacity. And as you can see, it's completely free. You also have a way to donate if you think their service is worth investing in, so we can continue to get it free, because this is open source software. So now there's other digital audio workspaces, and this is what they commonly refer to as a DAW. The acronym is DAW, and like I said just a second ago, it just simply stands for a digital audio workspace. So let's navigate. We'll close down Chrome here. You can use Internet Explorer, Edge, Safari, or whatever you like. I do have Safari here, but on some things I use Safari and some things I use Chrome. That's basically a personal preference. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Audacity. We're going to show you a few little ins and outs. This would not be considered as an in-depth or full review or tutorial. This is more or less just a brief overview how to get started with the Audacity program. So, as you can see, we have the window popped up. Now, you're not necessarily going to be able to see my toolbar up at top, but I will explain, and you'll see it come down. You'll see the drop-down window, but you won't actually see File, because I have the screenshot or the recorder through QuickTime cropped out a little bit, just for a little bit wider angle and to focus on the window that we're actually using. So there's a few things that you can do here under the File. This is the same place on Windows or Mac. This new, you can open up a new window and have two different Audacity programs running at the same time for different projects, which the more windows that you have going, just keep in mind it will use more memory, it'll use a little bit more RAM, and overall your system performance will be a little laggy, but you can do it if you've got enough memory. I'd advise anywhere from 8 to 16 gigabytes. I'd say 8 would be the minimum to do this simultaneous projects here. What we're going to be looking for is the import. And of course this is an audio. You can do MIDI tracks and you can do raw data tracks, but what we're going to be looking for is audio. So as you can see here, you'll see an up arrow. Now this symbol's for the Mac, it's a command, and then I. Now this is your keyboard shortcuts. On a Windows system, it would be the same. It would be Shift, and then it would be the Windows icon, and then it would be the letter I to import. So you can either click here like this, and you'll see this pop up, and this is your import window. That's what it would look like if you go to File, Import. Or you can simply, I'm going to use the keyboard commands, the shortcuts, by hitting Shift, Command, or your Windows button, and I. And virtually the same thing happens. It brings up the window. So that's just two different ways to access whatever's easier for you to access. A lot of people, it's just as simple to go to File and then go to Import. I personally like using shortcuts because that's what I'm used to. But now there's a third way, and I must tell you this. If you import from this window, you're importing the master file. Every one of these files is a master file. So if I import it here, any edit that I do to this file will be called a destructive edit. Now what a destructive edit is you're taking the master file and you're editing that file. In other words, the contents of the file. So if you say you delete a portion of the track and you cut it out and you save that file, just as you would save this original file originally, that will be non-reversible once it's saved. And yes, you can import it back in and further edit it, but you'll not be able to recover the parts that you've done edit. And that's why the terminology used is destructive edit. So now this is an okay way, but this is what I would recommend. We're going to close this, and now on a Mac it is a Finder window. So I'm going to open Finder. Now on PC, this window would be referred to as File Explorer. So on this, you go to the little folder. It would be somewhere right here on Windows, and you hit the little folder, and it'll say File Explorer. As you can see, we're on the music, and right here is the same files that we've seen. Might be arranged a little different in this window. It's the same files that we've seen in the import window, except I can open it two ways. I can I can do a secondary click on the Mac, or a right-hand click on the Windows, or it's called right click. I said right hand. Right click is the proper terminology. And I can copy, and then I can go over here and paste it. And that way works just fine if you really like to copy and paste. But you can also just click. Let me see what we got going here. Let's just use this one as a test, and you'll do a left click. This applies to the Windows or the Mac, and you just simply grab it. Now, as you can see, as I'm just doing this very slowly, as I move it over, so you can notice this, you'll see a plus. Now the window disappeared, and if you let go, you'll get this warning right here. Now this is the reason why I prefer to do this, especially when you're new and just getting started, is to use it from the Explorer and to do a drag and drop type of import, because it gives you this window to make a copy of the file before editing. Notice right here in parentheses, you'll see it says Save. Now, if I choose this selection here, it'll be just like the original Finder window, and it will import from the direct original or master file. Now this is, like it says, it's faster to do this, but it's not a safe. If you do this, you'll still be in destructive editing mode. So I recommend this, and this is what we'll choose for this option. Or you can hit Don't Warn again, and I always use my choice above. So if you use this option, it'll always just import and make a copy. So we're not going to check. We're just going to leave it right here for tutorial purposes. Here we're just going to click, and we'll have to give it a sec because this is a rather large file. Now, your import speed and your export speed is going to be dictated about the amount of RAM. This computer right here has, and I'll show you right here, has 8 gigabytes of RAM. As you can see, I'm using the macOS Sierra, but if we go under the memory, you can see I have a 4 gigabyte and a 4 gigabyte for the sum total of 8 gigabyte DDR3 RAM. So this is not, you can see right here it says 8 gigabyte installed. This is not a ridiculous amount of RAM, but this is a little bit above standard. Most of your standards come with just 4 gigabyte installed. But if you're going to do a lot of heavy, and I plan in the future to upgrade this MacBook Pro to 16 gigabyte, I'll put an 8 here and an 8 here for a sum total of 16 gigabyte to max out the RAM on this particular MacBook Pro. But you can go up a little bit higher, but Apple suggests that 16 gigabyte is the max, but you can go to non-official Apple products and go a little higher. But just notice, just be aware that if you do this, it could cause some hardware issues. It could cause a little bit of instability. So I do recommend the Apple. So this is a 4 gigabyte Apple RAM stick and a 4 gigabyte of Apple RAM stick. So anyway, we'll close this out. I just wanted to let you know that it may import a little bit slower or faster or render, just depending on your computer setup. So what we have before us is the track that we imported. And you can see right here, had to clear out some notifications, sorry about that. You can see right here that we have a stereo track. Now this little down arrow key is very important to the track. Now I can name this, and I can go ahead, and I know who this is, so I'm just going to put right here, I know this is Brother John Pittman, so I'm just going to write in John Pittman, and I can hit OK. And now if you'll notice, the track says John Pittman, so I just renamed that. Now this right here, actually, the way you did the difference of it, if you click this, you'll see that the waveform changes, and it's just by the view. So this is by dB or decimal gain. So we're going to just leave it, or you can go to spectrogram, which that's not really applicable when you're doing the type of editing that we are. So you just go to waveform. That's your standard. That shows the true waveform, and that's the way I suggest you to use it. Now, I'm in the 32-bit float right now to do this edit, and I'm in 44100 megahertz sampling rate. So what we can do here is we can split stereo track, or we can split to mono. Now, depending on what you're going to do, if you're just editing this to put it on a CD, you can leave it just like this. But just notice, if you have both stereo tracks, the file will be larger. So embedded in this, if it's recorded in true stereo or joint stereo, you'll have a left and right on this track and a left and right on this track. So what I do is, for our podcast and for SermonAudio.com, I hit split stereo to mono. Now you can see that it's no longer a join, or it's called a joint stereo. This is split, so I have a single track here that I can solo this track and only hear this track, or I can solo this track and only hear this track. You notice how they change. Or I can mute this one. So as you can see, it really, you can use mute and hear this one, or I can unmute it and mute this one and hear this one. So that's how that works. And this is your gain slider. Now this will affect your decimal level, your output level. But just remember, when you use this, it amplifies everything, including your background noise. And the 60 cycle hum, which is the little hiss that you hear, it affects that also. So just remember that. And I'm going to show you a way that you can not have to, really throw this gain up to, let me get this back to 0 here. And this is your pan. Of course, you can pan it all the way left to your left stereo track or your right stereo track. So I don't need this track, and I'll show you why. I'm going to hit the exit. Now, if I was to want to do this, I can just go up to the title bar up top. I'm under the Edit tab now, and I could hit Undo Track Remove. Or if you see here, the keyboard shortcut is Command Z. On a PC, that would be the Windows icon, Z. So, but I don't need to do this. So we'll show you right here that when I hit, let me turn the volume down here just a little bit, that when I hit, we'll do it like this, and you can see that it's playing. Let me turn the track volume down. Right here is your playback. That way we can just show you without having the actual audio coming through, and you can see that it's playing. And you can see this blue line. That shows you your peak decimal. This is your low point, and this is your peak or your high point. So you notice it comes in, it's coming in right now at about 21 decimals. But your ideal decimal gain is at the 3. Now this will make it loud enough across the platform that you'll be able to either turn the volume up or down as needed. Now this 0 is the highest decimal gain before you get into peak and or clipping. That's what a lot of people calls it, clipping. So clipping is just once you go over 0, and it'll turn red right here, and you'll have a little red line. It just gets real muddy and distorted, and it really hurts the clarity of the track, and it can really ruin your audio. So like I said, I can go over here and I can really boost this gain up, and you can see it coming up. But if you notice, I just got this red line right here, and that right there would not be good if you was going to put this on disc, because it would really pop and rattle your speakers. It just doesn't sound good. So now this is plenty loud enough, and you know, I can also just cut it down a little bit and get my desired where I want to. Let's turn it down to about 18 gain dB. Now I'm hitting on about 3. The only problem is I have amplified every little break in here. You can see there's a little break right here at the background noise and the hiss in there. So I don't want to do that. You can do that for some tracks if you just need to give it, I'd say, about a 6 decimal dB gain right here. You can see how it says 6. Well, it says 6. There we go, 6. And that doesn't really amplify it too bad, but you can see that that's not enough. Anything over about 6, you're really picking up just extra unnecessary background noise. So what you'd want to do is you'd actually want to stop the track. And this is known as the playhead, or the start, right here. So when I go right here, it says skip to start, or in parentheses it says home. So this is the start of the track head. If I do this, wherever this was, it automatically takes it back to the home. Now if I hit this, it takes it to the end of the track, which you can see the yellow line is right here. So that's how you go to the front of the track and the back of the track. Or you can use this quick play and just say you want to hear what's right here. You can start, and it'll automatically start right there. You notice when I help that, show you again, you've got a scrubber. You can also scrub. We don't want to do that. You can scrub, and what that does, it just lets you loop a section to scrub through it. In other words, to scroll through it to hear what's going on with that particular part of the audio. So what we're going to simply do is, up top, you'll find a little tab called Effects. So you go to Effect, and when you hit Effect, you'll get this drop-down menu. And what I want to do is I want to come in here and go to Compressor. And now you can see that it says 12 decimal. Now right here is your 12 dB marker. But you see this noise floor affects the output. In other words, how high the decimal meter is going to register. So this is the factory setting. And most of the time this is good. But say that you got one that is got a lot of peak. Say you have this clip, and then right here you got a spike here. Right here you got a big spike here. You got a big spike here, and it goes up and down, up and down. You can actually just compress, if you click this, compress based on peaks to get some of that peaking out. And it won't affect the other parts of the track so much as it will attack the peaks to level them out. So, but in most of the time cases, you're going to leave this unchecked, and you're going to use the preview. Now when I hit preview, you'll see how far it's going to run up the meter. So let's hit preview. Now notice right here. Remember how I said 3 is about the preferred decimal gain? Notice in that whole time it didn't go over 0. It didn't clip. So what I'm going to do is you're going to see this waveform transform when I hit OK, and this will take a minute to apply this compression. Now, depending on your RAM, this process may happen a whole lot faster, or it could even take 10 or 15 minutes if you're down into the 2 or the 4 gigabyte of RAM. So I have 8, which is about entry level. And so you can see this little bitty, this is about the original waveform right here. It has compressed it all the way up and expanded this waveform. Now, once this is done, to unselect this gray area, just hit the forward to move to the start. You notice that the track head automatically returned here. So now let's look and see after we applied the compression. It was hitting here about 27 to 21. So now let's look and see where it's at. Now you can see that you have a slight increase. So as you watch the decimal gain meter right here, you'll see that as this continues out the track, it gets a little louder and louder and louder. And that's probably because when it was recorded, the levels was a little lower right here, and then they turned up the volume of the lapel microphone to the desired level. And then once they get it, you can see that it's pretty level across the board. And you can see that we're hitting our desired 3 right here. You know, it went over a little bit right there, but as long as it don't go over the 0, as long as this blue line doesn't go over here and turn red, you shouldn't really have no issues with clipping or peaking. And see, this red basically tells you that it's almost to the point. But that's kind of what you want. You want to get the maximum amount of volume out of this edit as you can. But you want it to be clean and clear, not muddy or distorted. So this is looking and sounding really good. You cannot hear the sound on this with this type of recorder that I have. If I had a different setup, you would be able to hear the sound. But the sound's not exactly important. The track and what it sounds like is not important to this tutorial. This is just how to do the edits and how to get started. Okay, so we're going to stop this. And now, depending on the person that is speaking, you may want to do a treble cut or a bass. So up under the effects tab again, once again I want to hit the effects tab by using the shortcut. And now I can repeat this compressor. But just remember, we're at the desired level. If we repeated the compressor now, we would probably get into clipping. So what we're going to do is we're going to, now this is also Amplify. Now you can use this instead of the compressor on certain particular tracks, but it's just like this gain that I was telling you on the slider down here up under mute and solo, which would be right here. This amplification is going to amplify the background noise. Using the compressor does not amplify the background noise, but it compresses the noise floor and brings up the track level. So in most cases, the compressor is what you're going to be wanting to use. Now, if you install the extras, you can see all this. You can see a dynamics processor. You can see a multi-band compressor. And then if you want to, and you install all of it, you can get one that is called the Dyson compressor. So, but just starting out without a lot of technical skills, the built-in compressor does pretty good. So you can do things like echo, distortion, fade in, noise reduction, normalization, or normalize. You can do repair, repeat, reverb. You can do all kind of things with features that's built in. Right now we're going to look at the equalization. Now, As you can see, I like to put a bass boost and boost up the low range sometimes, because sometimes in a recording, someone's voice may be naturally more bassier, but depending on the settings and how they have it set, you may not hear the low frequencies in there as good as that you'd want to. So to make it a more bigger sounding voice, to have a more of a presence of bass or the low ends present, sometimes you'll want to do this bass boost. But you can actually do an effect called AM radio that makes it sound like a radio broadcast. You can actually cut the bass, do a low roll-off for speech, which it would take somebody that has a really sharp, really raspy, really bassy voice, and it would cut the lows off and roll them off and bring in a little bit more highs to make the voice a little bit easier to listen to. Of course, you can go to telephone or the treble cut, walkie-talkie, and there's a few other things that you can do by installing some of the options found on the page that I showed you earlier on the Audacity page. Right now we're going to do a bass boost, and it's really going to clear up and really amplify the low frequencies. You can see it's not a much, but it's a 9 dB gain, and it's going to roll back off, so it's not going to be like bass in the manner that would rattle your ears or anything like that. It's just going to boost the low ends of the vocal in this particular scenario. So once this gets done, okay, and as you can see, it did affect, well, I don't know if you could see, but I'll go ahead and tell you, it did affect the track and the overall volume just a little bit, because it boosted up the bass. Therefore, it's creating a little bit higher of a volume than it would be. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and to deselect this, we're going to skip to home. I'm going to turn this up a little bit. Okay, so now I can hear it. Y'all probably can't hear it, but I can hear this now. And the bass sounds good. It sounds where it needs to be. So we're going to go back to the start. Okay, now we're going to skip to the end of the track, and then we're going to look at the very end to see if there's any kind of pause or silence. I'm going to pause it. Now, as you can see, we can't really see what's going on at the very end of this track. So I'm going to hit the Command or the Windows symbol on your PC. I'm going to hold it down, and I'm going to scroll with my wheel on my mouse to zoom in on this track, so I can see what's going on with this waveform at the very end. This would be like fine-tuning it, and I can see where it stops, and I can see that there's silence here. So now the other way that you could do this is by using the zoom in or the zoom out. And as you can see Command 1 or Command 3 to zoom in and zoom out from the keyboard. But it's a whole lot easier just to hit Command and use your trackpad or your mouse to do this. Now let's say you need to fine-tune it a little bit more. When you take this and you get right here at the edge of the gray line, you click your left-hand mouse and you can run it as close as you need it. And I would say just a little off so it don't accidentally cut it off. As you can see right here, you'll see a little yellow line. That means you're at the very end of the playhead or the end of the track. So now there's two ways you can go this. You can go to the tab called Edit. Now we're under the Edit tab. And you can go to Remove Special, and you can either split cut or split delete. I recommend split delete, because if you're going to split it, you don't want it sitting in the track just not visible. You want to actually delete it. As you can see, this is an Option or an Alt Command K. So that would be an Alt Windows K on the PC, or the Option Command K on the Mac. So you just click that, and you can see that portion has been removed. Now here's a little trick that you can do. At the very end of your track, you can take the last little bit, 10 or 15 seconds, and you can go here, and you can grab that, and you can come up to the Effects tab, and you can scroll down to Fade Out, and you'll see how it transforms the waveform to fade it out. So now, if I click right before this on the click play, and I just do a left click, it'll play out, and you can hear, and you can see right here on the waveform that it just fades it out nice and slowly. So, and you could also, if you want to go back to the forward track, you could also, so it don't come on blasting, you could also do a fade in. Now this is up to you and however you would do it, but you can do a fade in here. Now that you can see, when it comes on, the volume slowly increases. This would be like in a studio effect. Slowly increases to get into the track. You can still hear it, but say if it's a track that at the very beginning every single word is important to be heard loudly and clearly, you wouldn't want to do this. So if you do this and you realize, I don't really like this, you just go to the Edit tab and undo Fade In. Or you could hit Command Z or the Windows symbol B on the PC. So now let's go to Export. Now this is a test track, so this is not edited in depth. There's a whole lot more that you can do. This is just simply a tutorial how to get started with the process of using Audacity for your church or for your ministry. So what we want to do is go to the File tab, and we want to come down to where it says Export Audio. Now here's your keyboard shortcuts. That's also going to be Shift on the Mac and PC, the up symbol. It's going to be Command or the Windows symbol on the PC, and E. It's going to be Shift Command E to export if you want to use the shortcuts on the keyboard. Or you can just simply click, and a lot of people, the most simple way, non-power users, would just click Export Audio. That's probably the most simple way until you learn the command, and then it's just by nature. You don't have to go up and browse through the file menu. You just hit Shift Command E and you export. Now on the Mac, it looks a little different than Windows. On the Windows, you'll have, let me go to where it would look more like Windows here. Now on the Mac, if you didn't know this before, if, say, this is the word's not right, you can use this and go, or you can hit this little down arrow key, and let me see if I can make this bigger. Well, I don't see, it's not trying to make it bigger, but anyway, you can scroll here and you can see all the options here, or you can choose where you want to save it here. So right now, oh, right here's the reason. That's why it was looking funny. Okay. So I've already got mine set to music. So we're just going to hit, we'll type in a title. Now I'm going to put test behind this so I know that it was a test and that it might not be fully edited to the way I would put it out on SermonAudio or the podcast, which is Faith Cometh by Hearing Podcast. You can find that on iTunes, Google, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast directory. So now I'm going to hit Save. Now I will tell you this. If I wouldn't have added this John Pittman here, and I wouldn't have added the test, and it would just been 09/17/17 evening. That's the original file. Even though we made a copy, we wouldn't edit and add the actual file. if we do not change this title, and you know what? I believe I'll do this just to show you, because I didn't make anything that's going to affect the track except to cut out some silence and to do the fade in and fade out. And I know that that's going to work in this certain scenario, so this is a good time to illustrate what I'm talking about. Instead of just telling you, I'll show you what happens. So now this file, with this name, is already saved in my computer under my music library or my music folder. So if I hit save, look what happens. Well, let me see here. Well, right here it is, Wave. So if I save this just like this, it will actually replace this file. Because you see, it's not, there's already one here, and it will think it's the exact same file, and you'll be replacing, this is the original file. This is not what we edited. But if we export it and save it with this name, that's a destructive edit. So there's several different ways that you got to pay attention and be careful. So if I just went ahead and saved that like it was, it would be saved in this, and this would become the master file, and it would be a, destructive edit. So what I'm going to do is hit cancel. So if I would have hit OK, just wanted to show you that, because if I'd have hit OK, it would have actually, so I'm going to hit Shift Command E. So I didn't use the file. You didn't see no drop down menu. I used the shortcut. So I'm going to actually just put, like I said in the beginning, John Pittman, and then I'm going to put test on the end of it. So I know it's a different file. It's an edited file. Oops. Okay, if I could spell, sorry about that, hit it the wrong way. Okay, there we have it. Now I could just simply hit the save, and it will save it. And we can put the author in. Now this is not the same thing as ID3, because we are putting the track information into a wave format. So I don't know the track title. I don't got the message title yet. You don't have to do all this, but you can. Like you can put the year, you can put the genre, and then you could hit save. But now if that was an MP3, you could put a whole lot of Wave. So Wave does not accept ID3 tags. That only applies to MP3s. Just keep that in mind. So if you put all this stuff in here, comments and all, when you go back and then even try to maybe insert a thumbnail, you won't necessarily see that. So now we can minimize Audacity, and we can go to our Finder window. And as you can see, if I go up here and I look, we got to find it. And where do we find it? Find it right here. Now, as you can see, right here is the original file. And you can see this is 534.6. So we shaved the file down just a little bit. Let me make this bigger so you can see what's going on. So you can see that this is a waveform audio. And you can see how this says MP3. So you can see that there is a difference just because of the size. So right here's the original, and right here's the edited file. Now if I was to not put the test in the John Pittman, it would have saved this edit into this track. And in this case it wouldn't have been bad, because even though it was destructive, it was edits that I wanted. But sometimes you may not decide that you want it just like that. So I still have the master track unedited, and I have the edited track the way I'd want it. So now we can give a little listen to it, and you can see that the time has changed. is 50 minutes, 24 seconds. And the volume between this track and this track is way different in comparison. So I can barely hear this one. You see, it's 50-30. So I didn't cut a whole lot of time out. But this track is about 0.25% of the volume as the edited track right here. So now what you can do this with Windows or Mac. Now you could have installed that lame encoder instead of exporting it as a WAV. You could have exported it as an MP3 and put the metadata or the ID3 tag in there, the metadata. But this is the way I do it. I actually go to iTunes. iTunes has and you can install iTunes on Windows as well. But it has a very good MP3 encoder. It's much better than the lame encoder. There's a little bit more work. I'm going to make this window a little bit smaller. So when I pull this up, let's put this right here so we have enough room to drag it. Let's center this up like about right here. And so what we're going to do is you can see that we have the WAV imports. So what we're going to do is take this edited WAV file from Audacity, and we're just going to click and grab it, and you can see, and now you can see right here that it's on this window, and I'm just going to drop it. You can see up here it's copying. So it's copying out of our Finder window into, well now, you have to make these libraries, and I just simply named it to a WAV and to MP3 audio files. So now you can see that this right here is completely copied into a track. So we could do a right click, a secondary click, or we can do right click on the PC or a secondary click on the Mac. But we could go to right here and get info. Now, this process is the same on a Mac or Windows if you're using iTunes. And I strongly suggest you use iTunes. It's free, but the overall quality of your sound is going to be amazing. Because WAV is a higher quality sound than MP3. But if you take this WAV and convert it to MP3, you do not lose the volume, the clarity, or the overall. You get the quality of a WAV in an MP3 format. So right here, it has its own ID3 or MP3 editor. But now notice, this is a WAV. This is not a WAV. This is not an MP3. So now don't let this fool you. You can put details, but you cannot add. See how this is grayed out right here? You can't add artwork. So you can't add lyrics. You can to a certain extent, but not that will actually show up because this is not an MP3. So what we have to do this is leave this highlighted. All right, now up at the top above this window, you'll not be able to see it, but if you look, it'll say iTunes, or you'll see File on a Windows, and you just want to go to File. And when you hit the File tab, you'll see a drop-down menu that says Create MP3 Version. This is the encoder, and it's one click. With Audacity, you got to do a whole lot more to create this MP3, and it's not as good a quality as this variable bitrate universal platform MP3 with iTunes. So you just simply hit Create MP3 Version. Now if you notice right here, you'll see Converting. Now, when it gets done converting, you'll see up here at the top, you'll want to go and find it, and by doing that, you go to Songs. Now if you look really closely, you see how this is kindly blacked out? This was your file. This is your new MP3 file. Now if you look, you can see This is the wave right here. It's 50.8 megabytes. So let's do this like this so you can see. Now you see how big of a file that is? Now look, after the conversion, we haven't lost any quality. Let's do this so you can see this. We haven't lost any of the quality. You can see it's the exact same length. But now it's down to 23.1 megabyte. That's a 16th the file space that it would be this wave format. That's why it's important to use. Now, if I would have done Audacity, the lame encoder, it wouldn't probably got it down to 23.1. It would actually probably been in the 40 to 50 megabyte range because it doesn't have the compression that the iTunes MP3 encoder has. So that's why I recommend. Now I could take this, and it seems like a lot, but really once you get used to it, it's not. It's really no more steps. Well, it is more steps than converting to an MP3 or exporting with Audacity. It's one or two more steps, but the process is not any longer once you get used to it. So now I can hold this and click this over to MP3 audio files. So this is just a library that I've got set up to do this type of system. Now you can see that we have the wave here and we have the MP3 here. Now, so if we'll highlight this, do a secondary click or a right-hand click on and hit Get Info, you can see that if we go to Artwork, now we can actually add artwork. So this is your built-in ID3 editor or tag editor or metadata or media data, however you want to call it. A lot of people call it different things. I just call it the ID3. Now we can add our custom lyrics, fully add our custom lyrics, type whatever we want to, and save it. You could put lyrics or you could put the Bible verse. I use this section to put Bible verses that's relative to the sermon. Now this option, this is a great thing also about using iTunes, but you got to be very careful. If we've already adjusted the volume inside of Audacity, you can give it gain here, but just remember, be very careful, and you'll have to go back and listen to the track, because if you was to add, just slide it up one, you could get into clipping, and it could destroy the actual file as far as the volume of the file. So now, I don't personally use this feature because I preset that with the compression inside of Audacity. But now every once in a while, I will come over here and I will hit Vocal Booster. That gives the voice a bright, big sound. And it just clears it up a little bit. And it just, when you're listening to it, it sounds more natural. It sounds like you're there in person, actually listening to the speaker speak right in front of you. So I really like to hit Vocal Boost. Now you can also hit and have little different little deals right here like small speakers. That sounds like you're in a barrel. I don't know why anybody would want to do that, but you can hit bass booster, reducer, classical, and you got all these other things for different type of music. But since this is a spoken track, preaching, the Vocal Booster really helps. So, and then you can see now when we go to File, you'll see it's in the MPEG or the MP3 format. And you can see the size is 23.1. The bit rate is 64 kilobits per second, and the separates at 44/100. See, it says channels mono. But here's the thing: it is a stereo mono track. So now, if this was a joint stereo track, this is stereo, it would be a joint stereo. This number would be probably in the 80 to the 100 megabytes. That's why I take the two stereos and I split it from a joint to a mono, but I still have left and right, so if you got earplugs on, you could hear it out of the left and the right ear, is to get the file size down. So that costs people less downloading time. There's just a variety of different reasons why you want the smallest file as possible. It's easier to stream. It don't burn up as much data. It don't buffer as much when you use the variable bit rate. And you get the, and see now, right here is the ID3 tag is version 2.2 that's built in with iTunes. Now right here, you can see that it was encoded with iTunes 12.6.2.20 right here. And that is a very good encoder, better than the lane. You can see that in fact it is in the MegFed. It's got 3 layers, so that's where you get the N, P, and then 3. So in fact it's the MP3. So that's how you would take and you would import your audio, you would edit your audio, you would bring it in to get the MP3 encoder. Now like I said, I showed you how to get the lame encoder if you want to do that. It does work without a problem. It just gives you a larger file size, and it does do VBR, which is variable bit rate, you know, for like streaming capabilities. It just doesn't do it as well, as smoothly as iTunes does. So we're just going to hit OK right now. Now to get this MP3 back in my track, let's just go over here and make a new folder. We're going to do a right-click, new folder. We're going to put MP3 files. And then I'm going to hit enter, and we're going to make that. Now let's go arrange by name. Okay, so now I'm going to go into now you can see we're in the folder MP3 files. This is just for tutorial purposes because I hadn't got a chance to organize everything. But I can drag it straight out of iTunes. Let me pull this down so that way I can drop and drag. So we're just going to simply grab this, and you're going to see once we come out of the window, this is the same way on Windows. That it pulls this window up. We're going to go over to Music. We're going to go over to MP3, and you can see we're right here, and we're going to let it go. And now what it's going to do is it's going to take it from here. Now it's still in the library, but this will be where it's hosted. This will be the new location of this MP3 file. You don't have to do this, but I advise you to put it either in your Finder window or in your File Explorer so you can find it. So now if I close this and I close this and I quit Audacity, I'm not going to save the project because I'm done with it, and I close iTunes, and I've got nothing going except for Google Chrome here and the Audacity. I'm going to open my File Explorer or my Finder, and right here is the DMG that I downloaded for Audacity. So I'm going to go to Music, and then I'm going to scroll to MP3, and right here is my file. So we're going to hit Get Info. That would be like doing a right command properties on Windows. As you can see right here, I don't have the thumbnail in here. But if I wanted to do that, all I would have to do this is to say, well, let's just go right here for just a second. Let's go right here. Let's go to Pictures. Let's go to, we'll just go right here. We'll just grab the face coming by here. And if I go right there, I could change that right there just like that. Or I could just change it like this. Let's see what we have now. It might be a little different on High Sierra. You used to be able to do that. Okay, so it didn't work right here on High Sierra. I know it used to on Sierra. That's no problem. All we have to do is open with iTunes. And so we don't have that, but what we can do is open in iTunes. It'll automatically open to where we have it and start playing. And this is the simplest, easiest way. Is just go get info. Same way on, and let's just hit add artwork. And this will save our artwork right here. So we're going to hit iCloud Pictures. Actually, we'll just go to regular pictures. We're going to go to the podcast thumbnails. We're going to click this, and right here's the iTunes. So now, as you can see, we have now inserted the artwork. Now this is for demonstration purposes. Normally this would be a picture of Brother John Pittman. I hadn't got all the pings. I hadn't got his thumbnails created just yet, but in time I will. But for now, for this tutorial purpose, what I'm going to do is I want to hit OK. And now, you may not see it right now, right here, but you will see it here in the Finder window. So now, if we go to this, and let's go back. I haven't had time to refresh. Let's go back to it. Go right here. Okay. I think when I went to get info, I think I might have. Let's just hit this right here. I did. I messed it up when I did that under High Sierra. So I think we could do this, and then we could hit undo. I might have actually messed this one up. Let's see. Open with preview. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it wants to do it. Okay, well, let's close it down and see what we got going on here. I know it's there. Let's hit play now. Okay, for some reason it did take a little bit of a minute, but now you can see what it's playing. And this is the track that we created. You see the thumbnails in there. I think on High Sierra, never really done it so far. I think somehow I might have messed it up when I tried to put the thumbnail on the actual the little icon inside of the Get Info under Finder. But now it has updated, and you can see the thumbnail. But generally, this is the little iTunes player window. But generally, like if we go right here, or let's see, we go right here, and I don't have none to show, but let me go back to here and I'll show you what it looks like. Back to the Finder window, back to music. Let's see. Well, I don't think it's got the thumbnail on there neither. Let's see if it does. Yeah, it does. And you can see that there's the thumbnail. So I'm going to brighten it up a little bit. You can see the little thumbnail right here. So it does look like that on High Sierra, it does work a little bit different as far as the thumbnails, but the thumbnails is embedded and is incorporated, even if the Finder window, and I'm not really exactly sure why the Finder window, see right here, I'm not sure why the thumbnail's not showing. Generally, it does show. So you can hit encode. See right here, you can encode this. iTunes, spoken podcast, you can also do that. I'm not going to do it right now, but you can change, or in other words, convert the file right inside. I'm not exactly sure why High Sierra none of my thumbnails are showing. This one has a thumbnail, and this one has a thumbnail. This one has a thumbnail. So I'm not actually sure what's going on with High Sierra. That may be a little quirk or something. I'm just actually now noticing this. So, but under regular Sierra, you would see that. But the thumbnail is in fact there and will display, even if the Finder. I may have to go through the Finder's preferences to figure out why my thumbnails. I might not have it set in the Finder window for the thumbnails to show. I'm not exactly sure if I do or if I don't. I may not have it set. Show file extensions. Key folders on top. Let's see what we got right here. That might work. I'm not sure. See, and see this right here. The stack view should show you the thumbnails, but it's not. So I don't know what's going on there. That's okay. I don't have to see it because I know it's embedded right here, as you can see here. So I hope that this little tutorial, you know, I'm not a professional. I'm just here to try to help somebody. But I hope this tutorial helped you in some type of way. I'd be glad to answer any questions. You can message me at Kevin Thompson Sr., or you can go to the Facebook page, Redeeming Blood Ministries. You can send us a message either way, or you can email us at redeemingbloodministries@gmail.com. So I hope something in this video may have helped you. I thank you for taking the time to tune in. And until next time, may God richly bless you.